Coming up on Midco Motorsports, the most exciting 2 weeks in sprint car racing is underway in Iowa. We'll recap both the 25th Annual 360 Knoxville Nationals and the Capitani Classic. Modifieds were the main draw at Brown County Speedway last week. Find out which driver claimed the big prize at the inaugural Bullet SportsWear Nationals. All that plus a visit with South Dakota racing icon Kent Arment in this week's Inside Track. The green flag drops down. And how is everybody doing? I'm Jay Elsen, and this is Midco Motorsports. Well, Knoxville Raceway produces plenty of headlines this time of year, but last week brought one story that caught a lot of people by surprise. Thursday, Marion County Fair Board President Dennis Hasselhunt announced that Brian Stickle, who has served as the track's general manager for the past 10 years, was resigning. Hasselhunt's statement gave no reason for Stickle's decision, but multiple reports out of Des Moines said it centered around the track's proposed multi-million-dollar expansion project, which had been delayed by the Fair Board. Despite his frustration, Stickle did agree to remain in his position through the end of the month, and that same night, he would oversee the start of the 25th Annual 360 Knoxville Nationals. Half of the 48 cars that started the night would qualify for Thursday's preliminary A feature, and it's Danny Lasoski jumping out to the early lead. Move ahead to lap 10. Scary moment for Sawyer Phillips as the 3P takes a hard tumble down the front stretch, end over end a couple of times. Phillips looking a bit dazed, but he does climb out of the car under his own power and tell the medical staff that he is okay. Hard to believe when you take a close-up look at what's left of his car. When the race finally did resume, it was all Lasoski. He opens up as much as a 3-second lead on the field and goes on for his third preliminary feature victory at the 360 Nationals since 2012. Here's how the points looked after night one. Sioux Falls native Clint Garner was quickest in qualifying. He also climbed 2 spots in his heat race and 3 in the feature. That was enough to earn him the top spot. He was followed by Thursday's runner-up Aaron Reutzel and Lasoski. All 3 were guaranteed a spot in Saturday's A main. Some very familiar names would fight it out during night 2 of qualifying on Friday. That's Brian Brown taking the early lead, followed by Sammy Swindell. Brown would lead for the first 8 laps, but here comes Dusty Zomer. The 82 goes to the bottom groove and overtakes Brown for the lead. And Zoom did his thing from there. Zomer leads the final 11 laps and takes the checkered flag for his 5th career 360 win at Knoxville. Swindell finished second, while Terry Maccaro climbed 5 spots to capture the 3rd and final spot on the podium. With qualifying complete, here's how things would look for the start of Saturday's main event. Remember, it's all based on points. Maccaro gets the pole with Zomer joining him on the front row. It would be Clint Garner and Wayne Johnson in row 2 with Sammy Swindell and Aaron Reutzel starting 5th and 6th, respectively. All right, here we go. 25 laps to decide who would take home $10,000 and the title of 360 Nationals champion. It was pretty clear that no one wanted it more than Maccaro. The 24 takes command right off the start, and T-Mac made sure no one would catch him. Maccaro, who was a late entry into this year's event, leads start to finish to secure his 4th 360 Nationals crown, his first since 2009, and he made sure to thank the man that made it all possible. Maccaro wasn't even going to run this year, but Don Lang lent him a motor 2 weeks prior, and the rest is now history. Dusty Zomer capped off a pretty good week himself with a runner-up finish. Aaron Reutzel was 3rd, followed by Wayne Johnson and Sammy Swindell. Well, it may not hold the same prestige as its Knoxville Nationals counterparts, but the Capitani Classic has become a very important piece of the puzzle for those who hope to capture sprint car racing's most prestigious crown. Sunday, 80 of this year's hopefuls took advantage of the opportunity for one final tune-up in the 4th annual event. Early on, it looked like it was going to be Kerry Madsen's night as the pole setter would lead the first 13 circuits. but Danny Lasowski would take over on lap 14. Knoxville's 4:10 points leader drives past Madsen on the inside. 6 laps later, though, Lasowski sees his lead disappear. No answer for the Shane Stewart slider in turn 3, and it was smooth sailing for the 2-car from there. Stewart climbs from 6th to become the 4th driver in as many years to win the Capitani Classic. Unfortunately for him, success in this event has not translated to the big event for the 3 previous winners. No driver has won both. Of course, Donnie Schatz has had a lot to do with that. Schatz has won 4 straight Knoxville Nationals titles and 8 overall. The question is, will the streak continue? We'll have a full recap of the 55th annual FVP Knoxville Nationals on next week's season finale of Midco Motorsports. It's no secret that some equipment works better than the rest, but that has really been the case in one division at River Cities Speedway. We'll explain right after this. Welcome back. Well, if you're going to run a Midwest Modified at River Cities Speedway, you may want to strongly consider rolling with a Millennium chassis. Why, you ask? Well, consider the leaderboard. Entering last week's Premier Racing Series event, Millennium drivers held 4 of the top 5 spots in the standings. Friday, the group looked to continue its dominance at the legendary Bull Ring. Mother Nature providing a pretty picturesque backdrop in Grand Forks. The street stocks were the first to take the track on Friday, and the car to beat belonged to Heath Corneliuson. One guy that looked poised to challenge the 923 was Travis Robertson. The 10R is focused on second for the time being, and he takes the silver spot away from points leader Jim Geringer. At that point, Robertson starts to reel in the leader. He makes a strong push in the final lap, but comes up just short of his 6th win. Corneliuson edges him out at the line for his first victory of the season. Back to those Midwest Modifieds now, and here is one of those Millennium guys we talked about, Matt Scow in the 2S in a battle for second on lap 11, and he's going to find his way around the 86 and the 32 to take control of that runner-up spot. It looked for a while like that might be as far as he would get, but on the final lap, race leader Scott Basicek bobbles a bit coming out of turn 4, setting up the closest finish in the history of River Cities Speedway. Take another look at this one. Basicek just a bit off kilter, and that was enough to give the win to Scow. The margin of victory for this one, 0.024 seconds.
Yeah, that was a great finish. Closest I've ever had, in our racing career. Pretty exciting. I didn't know if we won it or not until, we had a few minute laps there, and then they told us. That was pretty neat.
Understatement of the season right there, and a tough act for the late models to follow, but they give it a shot. Picking up on lap 16, Mike Vulcan leading the pack through lap traffic, but he doesn't see Ricky Weiss. The 7 car sneaks by him on the bottom of turns 1 and 2, but Weiss would have to work for it. After a lap 18 caution, he successfully fends off the top 2 guys in the points, Brad Seng and Dustin Strand, en route to his 2nd late models win of the season at the Bull Ring.
Didn't want to see that late caution with 3 to go, and I knew that would be interesting. I could go from 1st to 5th pretty quickly, but we were able to hold them off, and cars in one piece, so it's always good.
Last but not least, it's the Outlaw Sprints. Mitch Mack brought his A game for this one. Check out the move he pulls off here in lap traffic. Tiptoes the high line and overtakes Nick Omdahl for the lead. Mack would build on that advantage until a lap 18 caution brought him back to the pack, but he gets a great jump off the restart, and that was that. Mack cruises to his 2nd career RCS victory.
The only thing you can do is be as patient as you can and just try to run your line, wait for the right opportunities, and just, not get too, how do I say it, too aggressive,
In Northwest Iowa, the B-Mods were in the spotlight for the weekly show at Rapid Speedway. We'll get to them in a bit. The Sportsmans were up first, and Nick Brady was on a mission. After a no-show the previous week cost him his lead in the standings, Brady was determined to get back on top. After having a couple of moves waved off due to caution, Brady finally gets a pass to stick right here. He takes the lead away from Bill Kroon and never gives it back. The Sioux Falls native takes the checkered flag for the 6th time in 2015. It wasn't quite enough to put him back on top of the standings, though Brady does close to within 2 points of Leon Sneller. Roger DeBoer is 4 points off the pace in third. On to the hobby stocks, and there'd be some big-time action at the front of this one. That's Tom Crock running first, followed closely by Justin Regneris. Then on lap 5, the 17L of Chad Loneman joins the battle. 3-car fight for first, but Crock manages to retain the lead. Things get real interesting, though, the next time by. Regneris and Loneman make contact on the front stretch, sending Loneman into the wall hard. Take another look at this one as we slow it down. Loneman drills the tires at line turn 1 before coming to a very sudden stop. Fortunately, all was well with Loneman physically, but he and his crew would have quite the job in front of them to get that car back on a racetrack. Let's get back to racing now. 2 laps after the restart, Crock would get another test in the form of points leader Dustin Gulbranson. The 6-car had worked its way up from 7th to challenge for the lead, but the 15 was just too good. Crock holds him off as well, collects his first victory of the season at Rapid Speedway. Gulbranson settled for second, increasing his lead to 13 points over Regneris, who sees his string of 4 straight first or second place hobby stock finishes come to an end. He ended up in 5th place on Friday. The USRA stock cars were next. Pole setter Justin Ahrens looking strong early, but his car lets him down on lap 2. Ahrens blows the motor, giving the lead to the 40 car of Scott Overgaard. And Overgaard wasn't about to let the opportunity go to waste. He'd been close several times this season, but hadn't been able to get over the hump until now. Overgaard withstands a couple more cautions as well as a late push from Matt Lang to get his first win of the year.
Got on the top side and just kind of rolled up there and figured I'd just try it, hang out up there and not screw up hopefully, and hopefully it turned out good for me.
Overgaard now owns 6 top 5 finishes in 11 races and trails only points leader Rich Gregoire in that department. Gregoire finished 4th on Friday, giving him his 6th consecutive top 5 and 9th for the season. That brings us to the B-Mod Special. 18 cars battling it out for the $500 payday. Fans would see a good fight for the lead throughout this one. Mitch Van Engen uses the high side here to get around the 84 of Cody Arndt. But Arndt wasn't done. He answers a short time later as they head into turn 1. A handful of cautions would give Van Engen plenty of chances to try and counter, but Arndt able to fend him off every time. He hangs on for his first feature win at Rocky since June 19th.
A couple weeks ago, we had some bad luck and ended up running over one of the tires, somebody's tire, and ripped the oil filter off, so we haven't been back for about 3 weeks now, so it feels great to come back and get the W.
It was a rough night for points leader Maya Christensen. He started 12th and finished 10th. Fortunately for him, he's working with a pretty good cushion. Christensen still leads Van Engen by 62 points. Big numbers and a pair of photo finishes highlighted Friday's show at Brown County. A full recap of the inaugural Bullet Sportswear Nationals is coming your way next. Just a few weeks removed from its annual sizzling summer night swing, the Advantage RV's Modified Tour kicked off what could be its next big thing. The Bullet Sportswear Nationals was designed to be a 2-day, 2-track event featuring big payouts and extra bonuses for some of the top modified drivers in the region. Unfortunately, Mother Nature cut this year's plan in half, with wet conditions washing out the opening night at City Speedway. There would be no such problem on Friday, however, as the inaugural event made its way to Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen. Great turnout in the stands and in the pits for this one. A total of 102 cars checked in to start the night. We'll pick it up with the Pure Stocks. Lap 2, the 27 of Jason Miller, all over the bumper of race leader Cody Ketterling, but Ketterling doesn't back down. He'd get bumped again, though, on a restart with 8 to go. And this time, Ketterling is unable to hold his ground. He gets way up the track, setting off a brief battle between the 56X of Luis Chavez Jr. and the 17 of Colton Fryer. Ultimately, it's Fryer that gains control. Another caution a few laps later would set up a green-white checkered sprint to the finish, and on the restart, Pryor loses his lead to Casey Eustace as the 2U dives inside, and the North Dakota native hangs on from there. Eustace gets his second win in as many weeks at Brown County. To the street stocks now. Mike Thorpe jumps to the lead from his pole starting spot, but keep an eye on the 46C of Johnny Carter. He's the only guy that decides to try his luck up top. Carter stuck with it, and eventually it pays off. He gets side by side with Thorpe as they approach the white flag and completes the pass right here. Carter cashes in for the second straight week in Aberdeen. He's now 2 for 3 at Brown County this season. Moving on to the Midwest Modifieds. Lots of change at the front of this one, and the first switch we'd see came right here as the 8 car of Kelly Seckerson overtakes pole setter Adam Brotherton. Seckerson didn't hold on to that top spot for long, though. He gives it up to the 88G of Jason Good with 10 to go. 2 laps later, the lead changes hands yet again. It's Brotherton that gets back on top, while the 14H of Scott Harrington also gets by Good. And the 2 14 cars really put on a show from there. Back and forth they go, but in the end, the X marks the spot. It's tough to tell from this angle, but race officials do give the victory to Brotherton. He edges out Harrington in a thrilling finish. The Super Stocks were up next, and it's Andrew Lair jumping out to the early lead in the 3L car. He's still up front with 4 to go, but he's got some company. Nick Shipke and Trevor Nelson are hot on his heels, but Lair keeps his grip on the high line and the lead. This one was far from over as we fast forward to the final lap. Shipke still knocking on the door. He goes low in turn 4, but Lair just does inch him out. He gets his first career Super Stocks victory in dramatic fashion.
I've ran the Bombers, or the Pure Stocks, early on, and had a track championship down in Huron on them. So this one here means quite a bit for me, and we're starting to go in the right direction.
That brings us to the night's main event. 40 laps the distance for the Modifieds with a top prize of $1,500. It was all Todd Stark early on. His 33 machine led the first 17 laps before Dale Matheson finds his way past him shortly after a caution restart. Stark looking to respond the next time by, but he hits a rut in the track. That allows Matheson to pull away. We'd see another restart with 4 to go, and Matheson gets a new challenger. Mike Stearns puts up a heck of a fight in the 24S. The two go back and forth over the final few laps, but Stearns gets a little too aggressive as they hit the final turn, and it costs him. Matheson gets the win, while Stearns falls all the way back to 8th.
I knew somebody was going to try it. It was just a matter of who. The bottom was working good, and the caution came out at the end, and I seen Stearns, and so I had to pick it up a little bit. And then, from what I understand, he went off a 3, which you got to go for the win. That's the way it works.
After 25 years and more than 500 feature wins, Kent Arment is still tearing up tracks across the Midco Motorsports region. We'll have more on the South Dakota racing legend when we come back. If you've visited racetracks in Wissota country over the past quarter century, there's a very good chance that you've seen a guy by the name of Kent Arment in victory lane. In fact, I can almost guarantee it. With more than 500 career victories, Arment is in a class all by himself, and he's still going strong. Midco Motorsports' Rod Pattison has more on the South Dakota racing icon in this week's Inside Track.
It might say number 9 on the side of the race car, but when it comes to wins for a South Dakota race car driver, he's number 1. Kent Arment is our guest on Inside Track. Kent, thanks for the time.
You bet, no problem.
25 years have been doing this. Seem possible?
Not really. You know what flies right by? I still feel like I'm a rookie out there a lot of times, but I guess I have been around there a few times, so we're still enjoying it. We kind of make it a family deal. All my girls help me out in the pits and my wife, so we have fun with it. So I guess we'll keep doing it for now.
You come from a great racing family and a very successful family business. It's a good thing your boss is a little understanding about all the times you go on racing, huh?
Well, I don't know. He is to a point for sure. We certainly have to keep that business going first, and if we do get a chance to slip away and have some fun, he's more than willing to let us go at that point. But it's a good and bad deal when you work for your family. You know, you can slip away when you can, but when it's time to work, you got to go to work for sure.
Not only working for the business, but also helping some fellow race car drivers out too. Like when we had a chance to see you working on a street stock car, and always willing to help out.
You bet. I help a few guys in the pits and get them going. We're all buddies around here. We race, a lot of guys I race 3 nights a week, so we're all in this together just to have some fun. And everybody needs a little help every now and again, along with myself. So I try and help guys out. And we do align a lot of cars around the pits here and get their front end set up, and also pull their frames too and things like that at our shop. So we've been around it a long time, so they pretty much trust us to straighten their cars out and make sure they're right.
Winning championships obviously is very difficult. Winning multiple championships is that much tougher. You've made history in Wissota by not only winning multiple championships, but doing so in 2 different classes. Obviously, both championships in 2001, then you win the late models in 04 and the modifieds in 05. I don't know if people realize how difficult that is.
Well, back then I was a little younger for sure, and when we were doing that, we were running hard. You have to, usually run about 4 nights a week, and usually that means skipping out a little work for me. So it really tore into us for a few years there. We really went hard and accomplished quite a bit of stuff. And the year I did it, I was fortunate enough to just have some real stellar seasons, and it just doesn't seem to work that way. One car will run better than the other car on certain years, and it just seems to work that way. Of course, we try and get them both going as good as we can, but that 2001 year definitely was a stellar year for me, and we had a lot of wins and a good time, and made a lot of money that year. Not made, but certainly made enough to do it again the next year. But it was a good time, but it certainly involved a lot of work. I had 4 or 5 guys helping me at that time, and as everybody gets older, your crew gets older and has their families and go about their way and do their own things with their families. So I lost a few guys. We all get a little older, and now I'm down to about 1 guy, and so we get by with doing what we do, and that's about it.
We fast forward now to 2011, a milestone night at Watertown's Casino Speedway. You win $499 in a modified. The next race is number 500. Pretty unconventional. Tell us that story.
Yeah, we ended up having trouble the night before here, and a friend of mine just come up and said, "Hey, I'm not racing my car tomorrow," and I kind of helped him out with his car quite a bit, and he said, "Hey, just take my car down." So I arranged that deal and thought it would be kind of neat just to drive somebody else's stuff for a night. So we loaded it up, and we run $499 in the mod, and that same night with his car, we ended up winning the late models that night. It was kind of a cool deal. Actually, the wife was keeping track more than I was, and I kind of had some shirts hidden and made for the event, which I wasn't even aware of at the time. But it turned out to be a cool deal. Somebody else's car is kind of a neat deal, and the wife had some T-shirts that had the big 500 wins on it. It's kind of a cool deal, but hopefully that's not the end. Hopefully I get up to maybe 600 or something someday and keep going, but you never know. I just take day by day. We back off every once in a while this year and relax a little more than what we used to. So maybe I'm slowing down a little bit, but that was certainly a good year for sure.
Obviously, some changing of the guard here in Aberdeen, Brown County Speedway. Some new promoters this year. The Neuendorf family has taken over, and they seem to have some pretty good ideas as far as the driver's concerned, the fans, and trying to do some different things to make it a more friendly atmosphere. Yeah,
for sure. They're great people to work with. Just the little time I've gotten to know them. They're certainly aware with how business works and how the track business works, and they're working hard at it. Their tracks, they've had good ones and they've had bad ones so far, but they sure work hard at whatever they got and try to make all the drivers happy, and they're really concerned how we deal with things. And they've increased the pay a little bit, and the crowd base has been just great. So I think everybody's pretty excited about them being here and paying good and doing good, and tons of cars and having a good time with it for sure.
Ken, we appreciate the time. Continued success not only on the racetrack, but in business as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. That, again, one of the best in the business to ever strap in a race car, Kent Arment, on this week's Inside Track.
All right. Thanks, Rod. Well, if Arment is slowing down, it's not reflected in the standings. He currently holds the points lead in both the late model and modified divisions at Brown County. He's also 4th in both classes at Dakota State Fair Speedway and 6th at Casino. As for that win total, well, it just keeps on climbing. Between those 3 tracks, Arment has reached victory lane a total of 9 times in 2015. Well, we have reached the white flag. We'll wrap things up with a look at your weekend schedule next. Here's a look at your Midco Motorsports calendar for the weekend ahead. Enjoy the races, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.